State public defender is an attorney employed by the community and responsible for giving legal aid without cost to any person who seeks it and is financially unable to employ private counsel. It is his duty to defend those accused of crime until the issue is decided in a court of law. The first public defender's office in the United States was opened in January 1913. Over the years, other offices were opened. And today, that handful has grown to a network of lawyers cooperating to protect the rights of our clients. Now, the case I'm going to tell you about concerns a young man whose personal problems led him into more serious trouble with the law.
Dan? Yeah. I'm your lawyer, Dan. Good to see you. Gene Harris from the Public Defender's Office. You stationed somewhere around here?
Yeah, Fort McCracken, about 3 hours by bus.
Cigarette?
Oh, thanks.
Tell me all about this accident, Dan. Right from the beginning.
I was,
No, keep the pack.
Oh, thanks. I was driving down Church Street, see, not fast, and...
Whose car were you driving, Dan?
Belonged to a neighbor of mine, Mr. Erickson. He loaned it to me.
Mm-hmm. Just why did you borrow this car? What led up to it?
Well, I guess you could say it started this way. I was on the post, see, and it was after retreat, had shower, and was just lying there on my bunk thinking. You know, killing time, lying there and thinking, and...
You're laughing, boy. Heard any good jokes lately?
Yeah, it hurt, boy.
Hey, you should have been with me.
I had a great time. I wish I could. What'd you do?
Same old thing. Just fooling around.
Bet you forgot.
Forgot what?
Called my wife. Did you call her?
Didn't have to. I seen her.
Yeah, where?
Oh, picture show. She was with that, what's his name, with the curly hair and, yeah, charm boy.
Albie Schaff?
Yeah, the pretty one. Oh, what are you stewing about? Dames are all the same. I never let one put a rope around my neck. Love 'em and leave me, you never get no ulcers that way.
Ah, shut up.
Oh, come on, knock it off. I probably shouldn't have told you. I just don't want to see you made a sucker out of. What do you think you're going?
Oh.
Over the hill?
No, don't worry. I'll get a 3-day pass, but I'm going to find out what this is all about.
Danny! Oh, darling. What's the matter, darling?
Got a headache.
Let me get you something.
Ruth? I want to talk to you about something.
What's the matter, darling?
You don't know, I suppose?
Something happened at camp?
Yeah, something happened at camp. Something Sergeant Willis said. Said he saw you at the picture show last night.
Did he? I didn't see him.
No, how could you? You were so busy with Albie Schaff.
Oh, so that's what you're upset about.
Yeah. Real funny, isn't it?
Oh, darling, listen to me.
I don't want to listen.
But you're going to listen. I went to the picture show by myself last night. The way I've always gone since you were drafted. By myself or with my mother and the girls. When the picture was over, I got up to leave and I ran into Albie. He was by himself, too. And we walked through the lobby together and then stood in front of the picture show for a minute talking. He wanted me to go to a dance with him, and I told him no. And then he insisted on taking me home, so I let him.
And?
He took me home, that's all.
How long did you sit in the car with him?
I didn't sit in the car with him. Not for a minute, not for 5 seconds. What's the matter with you? Don't you believe me? Don't you trust me? Answer me, Daniel. Don't you trust me?
I don't know. I don't know.
You don't know. That means you don't trust me. What kind of a marriage can we have if you don't trust me?
No, who said I don't trust
You did. Look, you've been away from me a long time, too. How do I know I can trust you?
What do you think I do? Go chasing around with every dame on the post?
You've been accusing me of chasing around.
Maybe you were.
All right, if you want it that way, maybe I was. Maybe I'm no good. Maybe you shouldn't have married me. Maybe you should have married somebody else, somebody you can trust.
Will you stop it?
No, I won't. If you're sorry you married me, why didn't you say so and we'll get a divorce?
Oh.
Don't turn away from me. Listen to me. I want this settled right now.
All right, settle it right now. You want a divorce? Okay, get a divorce. Okay. See if I care. I was wrong, of course. I wanted to say I was sorry, but I don't know. I couldn't.
What did you do after you left the house?
Well, I walked down the block to this Mr. Erickson's house. His car was parked outside, so I went in, asked him if I'd borrow it, you know, take a ride, kind of clear my head.
And he said yes?
Yeah, nice old guy. He gave me the keys, and then...
Before you go into that, did you have anything to drink? Anything alcoholic, I mean.
Well, a bottle of beer with a sandwich or so.
When was that?
Well, it was right after Mr. Erickson loaned me the car. I went around the corner to a bar and grill, Eddie's place.
And then you got back in the car?
Yeah. I just drove around, and then all of a sudden I heard a bang like I hit something. I jammed on the brakes and got out, and it was an old lady. I hit an old lady, but I didn't see her, Mr. Harris. I swear I didn't see her.
Did you have your eyes on the road?
Sure, but headlights from a car coming toward me blinded me. I couldn't see anything, not a thing.
What did you do after you found you hit the woman?
Well, at first I thought I'd run away, and I got back in the car, and I just sat there. I began to realize what I'd done. Next thing I knew, the cops were there, an ambulance. They said the old lady was dead. That's when the cop asked me to get out and walk a straight line. He said I was drunk.
But you said you only had one bottle of beer.
That's why I had one bottle of beer. I didn't even feel it.
But the police said you were drunk.
Because I didn't do so good walking a straight line. That's because I'd just hit this old lady. I felt so bad inside. But I swear that's why.
All right. Now listen to me, Dan. This is important. Is this the truth you've been telling me? About borrowing the car, having one bottle of beer, and being blinded by headlights? Is all of that the truth?
So help me. I wouldn't lie to you, Mr. Harris, not my own lawyer.
Sorry, mister. Can't say I remember this one.
You're sure now? It's very important.
I know, but you wouldn't want me to say that I remember him and remember what I served him if I don't, would you? You don't look like that kind of a lawyer.
Well, thanks. For the compliment, anyway.
Hey, Miss America. Just a minute, mister.
You're a real howl, Benny. What do you want now? Tell me another corny joke?
No, the man wants some information. Take a look at the picture.
Do you recall serving this fellow, miss? He was probably very depressed, unhappy, in a mood. Remember him? The boy's in trouble, miss. I'm trying to help him.
Well, why didn't you say so in the first place? Yeah, I waited on this one. Sure.
What did you serve him? Do you remember?
Well, I remember. Some kind of a sandwich and 2 whiskeys.
2 whiskeys. No beer?
No beer, 2 whiskeys. Scotch. And he took 'em neat.
You're sure of that now?
Truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me, Hannah. Is that good or bad for the kid?
Well, it's not good. Thanks, both of you.
It's absolutely untrue, Mr. Harris. I hardly know Dan Booker, and I wouldn't lend him my car if he was my own son. Nobody drives my car but me. He stole it, that's what he did, right from where it was in front of my house.
I see. Then you didn't give him the keys to the car.
Well, what's the matter with your ears, man? I just told you.
Well, I was just wondering how he got the car started.
The keys were right there in the ignition. That's how he got her started.
Leaving keys in a car isn't very smart, Mr. Erickson.
If you people saw to it that car thieves didn't roam the streets.
I'm an attorney, sir, not a policeman.
Well, the police then. If they don't stop those car thieves, at least I'll do my share to teach them a lesson.
Well, the boy's in pretty bad trouble as it is, sir.
Sure, because he stole an automobile, and if I go soft, he'll do it again.
All right. Thank you very much for coming in, Mr. Erickson. See you at the trial, I suppose.
You're darn right you will.
Then you didn't actually see the car hit the old lady.
All I know is what I told you, Mr. Harris. I filled up the station wagon, and after the man drove out, I turned around and headed for the office. Then I heard this bang and a scream.
Well, then, the man that was driving the station wagon should have seen the accident, wouldn't you say?
I guess. But he just kept going. And I don't have the slightest idea who he was.
About these headlights that the boy claims blinded him.
Malarkey. There wasn't one car headed towards him, not a one.
You said you were turned away from the street.
Like that, I turned around. Looked up and down the street real fast to see what happened. There was your man coming to a stop, and the station wagon going away. Not another car going in the opposite direction. If there'd have been one, I would have seen it all right.
Well, thanks for your time, Mr. Buford.
Oh. It's all right. You know, your man was pretty liquored up. He lied to you about that, too?
Well, that's for the jury to decide. Thanks again.
Ruth, you've just got to make yourself do something. I'm not going to allow my daughter to mope away the rest of her life just... I'll see who it is.
Mrs. Booker?
I'm Mrs. Booker's mother.
Oh, I'm Dan's attorney, Mr. Harris.
How do you do, Mr. Harris? I'm Mrs. Booker. Won't you please come in? Please sit down.
Thank you.
How are his chances, Mr. Harris? I'm terribly worried. This whole thing is my fault. I never should have allowed that quarrel to start in the first place.
Nonsense, my dear. When a man has a suspicious mind, there's nothing a woman can do to change it. You know that perfectly well.
Please, Mother. I was upset about Danny even before the accident, Mr. Harris. Worrying about him and wondering if he'd ever be all right again after what the Army doctor said.
Army doctors?
Didn't he tell you?
No.
He doesn't like to talk about it. Danny was in the medical corps in Korea, and they were trying to take one of those hills, and he kept running in under heavy artillery fire to bring out the wounded. A mortar shell went off near him and nearly tore him apart. They gave him the Silver Star, but a medal can't wipe out the terror that stays in your mind.
No, I suppose not.
That's why you've got to help him, Mr. Harris. He wasn't drunk. He was sick.
Unfortunately, Dan did have 2 drinks of whiskey before the accident, Mrs. Booker.
Danny?
A waitress in a bar around the corner is sure of it. And Mr. Erickson is very positive about Danny driving the car without permission.
But he didn't see the old woman. With the headlights in his eyes, he couldn't see anything.
I checked with the gasoline station attendant. There weren't any cars coming from the opposite direction.
I tried to tell you.
Mother, please.
I'm just trying to help you, can't you see? I don't want my girl tied to someone who might have to spend the rest of his life in prison.
Mother, how can you say that?
I'm not saying it. The law says it. Isn't that right, Mr. Harris?
But you're talking as though he were a criminal, and he's not. He's good.
Baby, you're so young. You'll get over it.
Mother, will you please?
All right. I won't say another word from now on.
Maybe I can still do something, Mrs. Booker. Now, I don't want you to get your hopes up too high, but I'll see what I can do.
But the trial starts in the morning.
Well, perhaps I can get the district attorney to give me a little more time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harris.
Bye-bye.
continue the case. What for?
I need a little more time to prepare.
Oh, go on. The kid's guilty, Gene. Face it.
Jack, as a personal favor, then. Just a few days.
Gene, I'm not trying to be the heavy. If I thought you could help the kid, I'd say take a few days, take a few weeks, but just to postpone the agony. I'm sorry. I have an appointment downtown. You know what you look like standing there? Manned under the influence of 2 straight shots of whiskey. No, huh? Blinded by oncoming headlights, then?
Jack, I want a few days, and I'm not leaving here till I get them.
Well, make yourself comfortable, Counselor.
Hey, don't you ever go home? It's after 6.
I know.
Blake consent to a continuance?
You know, I've gone all through that boy's service record. Everything his wife says is true. Silver star and all.
Well, it won't swing him an acquittal if I know juries.
Something interesting I picked up at the coroner's office. The autopsy shows that the old lady had a bad heart condition.
Well, heart patients are entitled to walk through the crosswalks without getting hit.
The police report on the accident shows that the skid marks were only 3.5 feet long, which proves that the boy was traveling at a reasonable rate of speed.
Jury could take it to mean that he could have stopped in time.
Yeah, I know. If Jack Blake had only given me a little time.
Why, to find the man in the station wagon? For all you know, his testimony could convict the kid.
But I don't know, and that's just the trouble. Well, I guess I might as well go home and be impossible to live with.
Just a minute, Jane. I forgot something. A phone message for you.
Oh, thanks. District Attorney Blake called on the Dan Booker case. He's consenting to a 3-day continuance. Well, what do you know? All right, Dan. The postponement will help a little. But I can't do anything more for you till you start telling me the truth.
I did tell you the truth. Every word was the truth.
Then your memory doesn't seem to be as good as some people's.
What do you mean? What people?
Well, the waitress at the bar and grill, who served you 2 straight scotches. No beer.
How could she remember?
And Mr. Erickson, who left his keys in the car. That's easy to remember. He never loaned you the car. Why don't you level with me, Dan? How do you expect to get an acquittal when your own lawyer doesn't have the facts straight?
Okay, I lied to you because I was scared. Sick at what I'd done, killing that old lady. If I'd admitted I swiped the car and had a couple of drinks, it'd all go against me. But I didn't lie to you about the headlights. They blinded me. I swear I couldn't see a thing. That's the truth. You gotta believe me this time. This time I'm telling you the truth. They blinded me. I couldn't see.
Fellow in the gas station says there weren't any cars coming toward you.
Maybe he didn't see.
He's willing to testify that he did.
But there was a car near me. I saw it coming out of the gas station.
What kind of car?
Oh, a station wagon. I don't know what kind, but he must have been blinded. He'll tell you.
He won't be easy to find, Dan.
But you've got to find him. Don't you see what this means to me? You've got to.
Guard.
Why don't you put on a uniform and help me pump gas, Mr. Harris? You've been hanging around here for 2 whole days.
Yeah, waiting for the little station wagon that wasn't there.
Fill her up, sir?
5 regular.
Say, haven't I seen you someplace before?
Could be. Hurry it up, will you, please?
You ever drive a station wagon, sir?
Sometimes. It's a company car.
Your witness, Mr. Harris?
Excuse me, my name is Harris. I'm a deputy public defender. I'm representing a defendant who was involved in an accident that occurred here the night of March the 10th.
Uh-huh.
I was wondering if you could possibly be the man who drove out of here just before the accident took place.
What kind of accident?
An old lady was killed crossing the street.
Don't remember anything like that.
But you remember being here. The night of March the 10th, Saturday night?
Saturday night. Yeah, I did have the station wagon one Saturday night in March. Company let me have it to take the family out the next day. Uh-huh. Yeah.
And you came in here to buy some gas?
Yeah, I think I did. But I don't remember any accident. Wait a minute. There was an old lady now. Yeah, a little old lady. Just as I started down the street, she...
Would you mind doing something for me?
What?
Would you show me just how you drove out of here and exactly where you first saw my client's car?
Well, not if it doesn't take too long. My wife gets sore as the dickens if I'm late for supper.
It won't take long.
It came to $1.50 even, sir. Shall I check under the hood?
No, it's okay.
You mind if I get in?
No, hop in. So as I hit the street, I rode parallel with this other car. Or your client's, I guess. Parallel and a little ahead like this. Then off the curb steps this old lady.
In the crosswalk?
No, not the crosswalk. I remember that all right.
Well, then she must have been hit into the crosswalk where they found her. Go ahead.
Well, she walked kind of shaky-like. She cleared my car okay, and that's all I know. I had no idea the other car hit her, no idea at all.
Was there a car coming towards you at the time? A car with its headlights turned up, blinding so you couldn't see anything?
No, no car coming towards us, none at all. Why?
My client claims that he didn't see the old lady, that he was blinded by the headlights of a car.
Well, he's not telling you the truth, mister. Say, I've got to get on home.
Are you sure now? Sure that you've remembered every little detail?
What the heck is that?
I don't know. Not a car.
Came from that way.
Say, a blinding light, and right where my client's car was the night of the accident. Let's get down there and have a look.
Say, this is getting interesting. Like private eye stuff.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Is this your place of business?
Yeah, sure is. Why, you want to buy something? Be my guest.
I was just interested in that light.
Oh, that. It's nothing but trouble. You know, I've called the service guy at least a half a dozen times to fix it. Still ain't fixed.
What's wrong with it?
Hey, who are you guys?
Well, he's a lawyer. An old lady was killed down the street, and he wants to know if your light had anything to do with it.
Now, what my friend means
And I
is...
don't think I can be any help to you. What would my light have to do with it?
Well, it could have flashed down the street so that the driver of a car couldn't see.
What would I be flashing it down the street for? No. Up in the air for advertising. That's why I bought it.
But you said there was something wrong with it. Now, couldn't it have tipped down, say? What was wrong with it?
Well, that lamp kept blowing out, that's all.
I see. You have these sales every Saturday night?
Yeah.
Use that light to advertise?
Yeah, I do. But what's it?
Then he must have had it on that Saturday night, March 10th.
Hey, look, you guys, I'm sorry. I got to get back in the shop. See ya.
Hey, that's it.
That's how the old lady was killed, all right.
Hey, now, look, if that's how it wasn't my fault. I told you I'd call that guy to come fix it. You can't accuse me of killing no old lady.
No, you didn't. But you can probably save a young man's life. The trial's tomorrow, and I'll need your testimony on that light.
Oh, no, you don't. You ain't gonna get me mixed up with no trials or no killings.
Then I'll subpoena you.
All right, I'll be there.
Hello, Miss Harris.
I brought you a change of clothes for the trial tomorrow. Now, you mustn't worry. Everything's going to be all right.
When can we ever be together again, Ruthie? On visiting days for a few minutes? How many years will this go on?
Everything's going to work out all right.
And if it doesn't?
You mustn't even think that. You must think that we're going to be together after the trial.
Dan, I have some news I thought you might want to hear. There weren't any headlights. It was a searchlight advertising an auction sale down the street.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not. I can't answer for the jury, but I think we can prove the accident was unavoidable.
And I have a chance?
I think a good chance. You kids have a few minutes.
The case was tried the next day. Through the efforts of Public Defender Harris, the jury brought in a verdict of not guilty, and justice had triumphed in preventing an unfair manslaughter charge. As for the car theft count, Dan was found guilty, but the sentence was 3 months suspended. That meant that he and his wife were back together right after the trial. Now, the case you have just seen was brought to a fair and just conclusion through the efforts of a public defender. Philip Morris salutes the public defenders everywhere who serve faithfully to assure everyone equal representation in the eyes of the law. Such a man is Russell H. Yeager, public defender, El Centro, California. We congratulate Public Defender Yeager and his staff for outstanding achievement in the cause of justice. Public defender is an attorney employed by the community and responsible for giving legal aid without cost to any person who seeks it and is financially unable to employ private counsel. It is his duty to defend those accused of crime until the issue is decided in the court of law. The first public defender's office in the United States was opened in January 1913. Over the years, other offices were opened. And today, that handful has grown to a network of lawyers cooperating to protect the rights of our clients. Newspaper headlines not so long ago, young father took the law into his own hands.
Billy! Billy! Step on it, son. Lunchtime.
Look what I found, Dad. It's a big one.
Well, that's a very interesting specimen.
I know where there's another one, even bigger.
Well, after lunch, son. Come on, give us a hand, huh?
It's a much bigger one, Dad.
I'll bet it is.
It's nice here. I like it lots. Can we stay for a long time?
Sure, son. I like it here, too.
Know where we can find the manager of this place?
Sure.
Well, where is he?
Well, you can usually find him over there at the office, but right now he's over here fixing something.
You the manager?
Yep.
Well, why didn't you say so?
Well, you never asked me that. What can I do for you?
We're looking for a man named Jeff Norton.
No.
Stanley Harper, Robert Owen, Joshua Adams.
You sure are looking for a lot of people, ain't you?
They're all the same man. Those are just aliases.
Nobody by that name living here either.
Maybe you'll recognize this.
Hurry, son, we're going to go for a ride.
You said we were going to have lunch.
Come on, son, hurry.
Yep. I know that fella. That's his trailer right over there.
Get out.
You let my daddy alone. Let him alone.
Sorry, Billy.
You Jeff Norton?
Yeah.
You'd better come along.
6 years of running. We sure had a lot of fun, didn't we?
Are you in charge of the Norton case?
Yes, what can I do for you, Mr.
I'm Ben Foreman, an art dealer. I've known Jeff for years.
Sit down, Mr. Foreman.
You've got to do something for him, Mr. Matthews. Jeff is no criminal. He's a fine, talented man. He was justified in what he did.
It's a serious charge, Mr. Foreman, child stealing.
But it was his own son.
The boy's grandparents were given custody of the child in a court of law.
Jeff was helpless. It was Harrington and his million-dollar lawyers against him. The boy belongs with his father. It's his son.
I can understand his bitterness, but that's no reason for abducting the boy and avoiding the police and running away for 6 years. All right, suppose you tell me about it, Mr. Foreman.
Well, I've known Jeff as a youngster, before Billy was born, before he married Barbara.
How did they meet?
The ironical part of it is that the Harringtons inadvertently arranged their introduction. Harrington has probably one of the finest art collections in the city. Every once in a while, he'd invite the public in for a showing.
What Ben Foreman told me could have been a story out of an old movie. The story of a young painter and a rich girl. They were immediately attracted to each other. They spoke the same language, liked the same things. It was love at first sight, and less than a month later, they were married. It was a big wedding, one concession Jeff made to the Harringtons, who had been opposed to the marriage from the beginning. Jeff and his bride started their new life in a walk-up flat in the Latin Quarter.
Can you tell me where Jeff Norton lives? Jeff? Oh, yes. But you don't look like you need a free meal. He's one flight up. I am going to the party also. Just follow me, eh? Well, thank you. Loudest is here. Let's eat, eh?
Leo, come on in.
Darling, my boy.
Hello, Mother. Barbara. Dad, how nice of you to come. Nice to see you,
It's wonderful to see you, Barbara. But I'm not used to mountain climbing.
It's very nice, dear. Well, come on in. I want you to meet everybody. Mrs. Peroni, Mr. Peroni, Mr. Foreman, where are you? Here. My mother and father, Mr. and Mrs. Harrington. How do you do? And Vladislav.
I already meet him. When do we eat?
In a minute, Vladislav. Spaghetti marinara takes a little time. I fix the sauce.
Look at it. The lines. The grace. The result of 3 months' work.
It's beautiful, darling.
Well, it's certainly different. Foreman, my latest work. You will put it in a store and sell it for me. Yes, Foreman. I'm doing you the honor of asking you to represent my creations.
I will, Peroni, when I can understand them.
What is there to understand? He says it's sculpture, so it's sculpture. You'd buy it, Ladislaus? No, it stinks. It's only my opinion, though. Someday somebody stupid will like it.
Everybody come and get it. It's all ready.
Oh, beautiful.
They look good.
And about time. He makes the money, takes the pills. Me? No money? No pills.
Best spaghetti dinner I've ever had.
Well, thank you, Ben. Thank you. I have a proclamation to make. Mr. and Mrs. Jeff Norton are pleased to inform their very good friends that in the third week of August, approximately 7 months hence, Mr. and Mrs. Jeff Norton are going to have a baby.
Barbara. It'll undoubtedly be a boy because Jeff wants one.
Well, my boy. Congratulations. Well, thank you. I appreciate it very much. You're all invited to face the floor.
Bring some of your new stuff down to the store. I think I have someone interested.
Wonderful, Ben. Thanks.
Everything was lovely, but the sauce was flat.
Oh, Leo, it was not. You don't have to go yet.
Oh, sure. Stick around. We haven't had a chance to talk.
What did you think about our news? I think it's wonderful.
Well, I don't, Barbara. You might have waited until things were better before starting a family.
We're not worried. They'll be better.
We'll be all right, Mr. Harrington.
I doubt it.
We're only thinking of you. This sort of life may be all right for people who are struggling to get ahead. People who have no other resources, but... Oh, Barbara, your having a baby changes everything.
Don't worry about me, Mother. I'm going to be just fine.
Oh, don't be stubborn. We can help. You can move into our house and...
We're staying here.
Mother, to hear you talk, you'd think we were living in the last outpost. Why, our neighbor, Mrs. McGinty's had 6 babies, and she takes in washing.
But you're not a McGinty, Barbara. You're a Harrington. All your life, you had everything you've wanted. Living like this might be adventurous to you, but not to us. Now that you're having a baby, our grandchild, you should be properly cared for. Staying here is ridiculous.
This is what we can afford, Mr. Harrington.
Obviously. And it's not good enough for my daughter.
Stop it, Dad. You have no right to say that.
We have a right, Barbara, to see that you're cared for. We're your parents.
And I'm her husband, Mr. Harrington. This is our home. We're happy here.
I think we should be going, dear.
Good night, Barbara.
Good night, Dad.
We'll talk about it later, dear.
Oh, darling.
Honey, I know I can't give you everything you're used to. Maybe your father's right. Maybe moving up to their place.
That's dumb.
No, I mean it, Barb. You'd have everything. The best.
I have the best. Right here, Jeff.
Couple of happy kids, Barbara and Jeff Norton. Maybe the apartment and Jeff's bank account weren't everything they should have been. But there was the baby to look forward to and Jeff's future. It was about 6 months later, in early July, when something happened that changed everything.
Barb! Barb!
Here, darling. What is it?
Take a look.
Money. Where did you get it?
Sold a picture. $400. I cashed a check right away. Made her give it to me in 5s and 10s. It looks bigger that way.
Oh, Jeff. It's wonderful. And it's just the beginning. You'll see.
Ben was saying I ought to get a private show, but I think I'll let that wait a while.
A private show? And you want to wait? Jeff, this is what we've been dreaming about. Why wait?
You're going to have a baby. I want to be around, not gallivanting off to San Francisco.
Silly, I still got 2 months to go. Why, you can go to Timbuktu if it means showing your work properly. What gallery is it?
Sloan's, but
You're going, Picasso. What's more, you're going to take the first train. Well, go ahead, get your things, start packing.
Honey, are you sure? I mean, in your condition, I ought to...
My condition. You want to fight? I'll show you how strong I am.
Okay, I'll be back in a couple of days at the latest.
Hello, Mother.
Hello, dear. I just dropped in to...
Hello, Mother Harrington.
Packing? Who's going away? Jeff. Sloan's in San Francisco think they might give him a show.
Oh, well, do you think it's wise?
Please, Mother, not you, too.
But now, of all times, Barbara, your father and I are really worried. This neighborhood and all those stairs to climb and...
That's all going to be changed. We're solvent. Look. Here you are, honey. Enough for the doctor, the hospital, and some of the layette, too. Sold a painting, $400.
How nice.
Well, I just have time to catch the train. Bye, hon.
Bye.
Wish me luck.
I do.
Oh, I almost forgot. You owe me $60, will you?
Here.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Mother Harrington.
Goodbye, Jeff.
He'll make it. I know he will.
I can't see how he can go away at a time like this.
Oh, Mother, I'm not a baby. I'm having one.
Your father's right, Barbara. You must move in with us.
I like it here. Thanks anyway, but I'll be all right.
You'll have privacy. Goodness knows our house is large enough.
Look at all that money. It's funny, I've heard about women wanting pickles. It's real crazy, isn't it? I feel as though I could eat 20 of them right now.
Barbara, I wish you'd listen to me.
Please, Mother, I have some marketing to do.
I'll go with you. You
All
mind?
right.
How can you be so stubborn? Up and down these stairs all day long. At least you could find a place on the first floor.
Please, Mother, I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Return from San Francisco, Jeff learned about the accident. His wife had been taken to her father's home.
Oh, Mr. Norton. Is my wife here?
Yes, sir. Mr. Harrington would like to see you.
After I see my wife.
Just a moment, Jeff. Don't go up. I want to see Barbara, and I want to see her now. She's resting. You might wake her up. Besides, I think it best that you don't see her.
Not see my wife?
I want you to know, Norton, that I hold you to blame for everything that's happened.
Me? To blame for what?
The way you've been living. The poverty you've inflicted upon her. Those stairs, it's a miracle that she's still alive.
I don't have to listen to you.
You'll listen and like it, too. You're no good, Norton. You and your phony artist friends.
Don't care what you think. Barbara's my wife. We're happy. And I'm going to see her.
No, you're not. She's staying here until the baby comes. We can afford to give her what you can't.
Please, Mr. Norton, don't make any trouble.
You're not going up, understand?
Stop that! Jeff!
Sorry, darling. I should never have gone.
It wasn't your fault. It was an accident. Did you get the show?
Yes.
I'll help you hang your picture. We'll sell every one of them. We don't have to wait so long for our baby now. Jeff, don't worry. It'll be a boy.
I'll be waiting, honey. I'll be waiting, honey.
was a long wait, almost until dawn that morning. And in all that time, with their nervousness and worry and fear, the Harringtons and Jeff didn't exchange one word. Jeff's son was born that night, but his wife never saw him. She died while she was on the operating table. Jeff could think of nothing but his aloneness. Barbara was gone. What was there to live for? Jeff Norton never drank before Barbara died, but he made up for it in those weeks that followed.
Has Jeff Norton been in here lately?
Jeff.
Oh, man. I've been looking all over for you. Been months, 2.5 months since...
You're wrong, Ben. Happened this morning. Happened 10 minutes ago. Always happens 10 minutes ago.
Come out of it, Jeff. Come out of it. You've got to think of your son.
Son?
Yes. He's a fine baby. He's yours. The Harringtons are trying to take him away from you.
What?
You still have a chance. The judge is giving his decision at 2 o'clock this afternoon.
Take him away? I gotta go. I'll need some money. Clean up and shave.
You've got money, Jeff. $900. I sold 2 pictures for you. Now, come on. We'd better hurry.
I have considered this matter very carefully, and I'm awarding the custody of the child to Mr. and Mrs. Harrington.
No. You've got to listen to me, Your Honor. I'm Billy's father. He's my son.
Your Honor, I object. You've already made a decision.
Just a moment. Yes, Mr. Norton, what did you wish to say?
I want my son, Judge. I want to take care of him myself. They have no right to take him away from me.
This man walked out of the hospital the night his wife died. No one has even seen him until now.
What he says is true. It was the shock of losing my wife. The world collapsed. I'm willing to take my responsibility now.
Your responsibility? The way you took care of my daughter?
He's my son. He should be with his father. I can take care of him. I swear I can. I've got money. I sold 2 pictures. I can sell more. I can give him everything he needs.
I'm sorry, young man. I'm awarding the custody of the child to the Harrington. However, if in the future you can prove to the satisfaction of the court that you were able to provide a home and become a responsible member of the community, I will consider reviewing the case.
But, Your Honor...
Jeff, come.
I'll walk home with you, Jeff.
Never mind. He's my son. I want him.
This isn't the end, Jeff. We'll get a lawyer. Fight them.
Fight Harrington and his millions? Like a bow and arrow fighting a machine gun. Thanks for everything, Ben. Bye.
Six years of running away.
Jeff and Billy belong together. It isn't right. You've got to do something for them.
I don't know, it's almost a hobo's life compared to what the Harringtons can do for the boy. When the father was picked up, he had $1.42 in his pocket. How did they manage to live?
I sold his paintings for him. He'd send them to me from wherever he was, under different names.
Different names?
Johnson, Harper, Billings, Edwards. Never Jeff Norton. He was afraid to be traced.
You're an art critic, Mr. Foreman. Can he really paint?
He's a fine painter. Give him the chance to settle down, and Jeff will make a great name for himself.
I'll see what I can do, Mr. Foreman. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
But what is there to discuss? This man is guilty of child stealing.
Stealing his own son.
I signed that complaint 6 years ago, Mr. Matthews, and it still goes.
Say good night, Billy.
Billy, how's my big boy? Do you have any fun today?
I want to go to the beach and get some shells.
Well, maybe we'll go tomorrow, eh?
When will I see my daddy?
It's time for your bath, Billy. I'll see you before you go to bed. Tell Miss Florence to call me.
See here, he still feels a little strange.
He misses his father, Mr. Harrington.
He misses him because he never knew anybody else.
We're doing what's best for Billy. He'll thank us for it when he's old enough to understand.
Jeff Norton wants to give him a home, too.
What kind of a home? A trailer, a tramp's existence. The only thing that Jeff Norton's any good for.
I understand he's pretty talented.
I know art, Mr. Matthews. I've studied it all my life. These are artists. Talent.
Picasso, Rouault, successful painters. But success can't always be measured by the amount of money that we have in the bank, can it?
Of course not. A man is judged by his accomplishments, by his ability.
Do you know these painters, personally, I mean?
Well, no.
How about this one, Stanley Harper? Or this one, Clarence Johnson?
Well, it's funny you should pick on those two. Those are unknowns. We pride ourselves on having discovered Harper and Johnson.
I know him.
Him? But they're different painters.
No, Mrs. Harrington. They're one and the same man.
Well, I often thought the technique was the same, but why the different signatures?
It's a long story. He's a fine painter, isn't he?
Yes, very fine. I'd like some more of his work. Where could I reach him?
Well, he's downtown. He's available. As a matter of fact, he just arrived in a trailer. He has a son named Billy. His real name is Jeff Norton.
Are you sure? Are you positive that Jeff Norton painted these?
Positive. Your son-in-law could be a great painter if given the opportunity. You could give him that opportunity.
Just a minute, Mr. Matthews. I think we should discuss this further. Don't you?
The Harringtons dropped their complaint against Jeff Norton, and he was released that day. He's a famous painter now, but summers, when school is out, they have time to take that trailer for a little trip. Mr. Harrington and Billy hunt seashells together now. The case you have just seen was brought to a fair and just conclusion through the efforts of a public defender. Public Defender Gordon L. Patton of Tulsa County, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and his staff for outstanding achievement in the cause of justice. public defender is an attorney employed by the community and responsible for giving legal aid without cost to any person who seeks it and is financially unable to employ private counsel. It is his duty to defend those accused of crime until the issue is decided in a court of law. The first public defender's office in the United States was opened in January 1913. Over the years, other offices were opened. And today, that handful has grown to a network of lawyers cooperating to protect the rights of our clients. When tragedy strikes, it often leaves a scar of bitterness. Now, the case involving State Highway Patrolman Don Nelson was no exception. Nelson and his partner Jack Miller were patrolling a lonely section of highway when they came upon a construction barricade, its warning light blown out by the wind.
Good thing we caught this.
Yeah.
Got a match?
No, I'll get one out of the car.
Well, make it snappy, will you? We get off duty in an hour, and I've got a date for a game of handball.
The guy's over 5 years old. You're a cinch to get beat.
Just get the match, will you, wise guy?
Meanwhile, just a few hundred yards from the barricade, a car approached. It carried two newlyweds.
2 weeks. Not a very long honeymoon.
2 weeks. Then Mr. Private First Class Tony Fraser is off to Japan. Probably never see him again.
They don't make oceans that big. I'll see him again.
You bet you will. Until you're sick of seeing him.
Want to bet?
Look out, Jack!
Honey, are you all right?
She hurt?
I don't know.
I'll call for your ambulance.
Wait a minute, officer. It's not what you think.
Patrol Unit C, 52J calling.
Come in, C52J.
Reporting an accident with a private vehicle on 94, 7 miles south of Riceman Junction. Need an ambulance. Making an arrest on a 501.
Violation of Vehicle Code 501. Accident while driving under the influence of alcohol involving injury. Suddenly, a honeymoon had turned into a nightmare.
That highway patrolman. Is he better?
He died an hour ago. You must pull yourself together, Mrs. Fraser. We have a lot of work to do.
The man's dead. I killed him. Don't I deserve whatever happens to me?
Then you were driving under the influence of alcohol.
What?
Don't you understand the charge that's been brought against you? The patrolman who witnessed the accident says that you were drunk.
But that isn't true. I don't drink. I never have.
His report states there was a strong odor of alcohol in the car. There was a bottle that had
The
been...
brandy. It must have been broken in the crash. But we hadn't been drinking it.
What were you doing with it?
It was a present from Maggie.
And who's Maggie?
She's my grandmother. I've lived with her since my parents died. She has a grape vineyard in the Shoshone Valley. Tony and I had just been married there.
Now you listen to me, John Scott. I've been taking what's jokingly called your newspaper for the last 40 years. And I don't want any buts. I want Janet's wedding picture on the front page. Well, just for today, I can't worry about the international situation. Use the prophyl shot. Now, sorry, ladies and young folks, the party's over. I want to talk to Janet before she goes. Goodbye, goodbye. Well.
Maggie, the wedding was the greatest.
So is the girl you married. You're much too good for him, darling.
Nothing you can do about it now.
I can make a man out of you, and I intend to as soon as the Army lets you go. Tending these vineyards for a year will put some muscles under those shirt sleeves.
Well, we'd better go. We've got a 200-mile drive ahead of us.
Oh, after that drive from camp, another 200 miles sounds like 2,000.
Just like I say. Get out of the Army, and I'll make a man out of you.
Goodbye, darling.
Goodbye.
See you in 2 weeks.
Oh, wait a minute. I have something for you. This brandy was bottled almost 100 years ago. My grandfather gave it to my mother as a wedding gift. He had made it from the first fruit on his land after he came to America. It's been handed down to each bride in the family. Your mother had it last. Now it's yours.
You know what, Maggie? You're a pretty nice egg at that.
Oh, go on.
I remember my mother saying that brandy was supposed to remind us that life is like the land. You only get out of it what you put in it. For the others, it represented life, but it'll always remind me of death. Mr. Matthews, I'm all Maggie has. You've got to promise me that you won't tell her anything about this.
If that's the way you want it, Janet. Janet Fraser had been convincing, but that wasn't anything a lawyer could carry before a jury. Proof of her innocence was needed. The first person I wanted to see was Janet's husband, Tony. I located him at the Army Embarkation Center, where he was required to report daily. Then there definitely had been no drinking the day of the wedding.
No, sir. Mr. Matthews, I've known Janet all my life. I even went to grammar school with her. I remember when I used to dip her pigtails into the inkwell. She's never done anything bad in her life. What happened wasn't her fault.
All right, Tony. Then we'll keep on trying to find out what did happen.
Well, what do you intend to do?
First of all, I'd like to talk to the highway patrolman who was there when the accident occurred.
I only wish there was some way we could make him understand that it wasn't Janet's fault. He seems to hate her so.
Maybe that's natural, Tony. You see, the patrolman who was killed was his best friend.
Come in.
Are you Nelson?
That's right.
I'm Bart Matthews. I'm the public defender. I'd like to talk to you about Janet Fraser. Going on a trip?
Just packing Miller's things, sending him to his mother.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Why be sorry? Jack's been thinking he was going to get it ever since we were digging slit trenches overseas. You know, it's funny. Where we were, lead was flying like hail, but it took some boozed-up dame to drop him.
There are two sides to the case, Nelson.
Sure, yours and your law books looking for loopholes, and Jack's just buried.
You two were very close friends, weren't you?
When I say yes, you'll say I know how you feel. That'll make everything just dandy.
Now, just a minute, Nelson. Let's understand one another. I came over here to talk about my client. That's no reason for you to boil over on me.
There's every reason. You're trying to get her off, aren't you?
Only if she's innocent. That's my job.
Then bow out, mister. Because I'm the guy that was there, remember?
Yes, I know. I also know you have a tremendous responsibility in this case.
What do you mean by that?
You were the only witness. You were the arresting officer. The court will go along with your testimony.
You know what that does to your client, don't you?
How can you be so sure about this girl? You didn't even give her a sobriety test.
Well, excuse me for neglecting that, but a certain guy I know is dying in my arms. Look, Matthews, let's get one thing straight.
You're not going to get any help from me. I'm on the other side, remember?
I've been reading up on you, Nelson. You're a good police officer. You got a record anyone would be proud of.
You know how I got that record? By calling a spade a spade. No favors, no sentiment, just doing the job I'm paid to do.
You did a little more than that.
Look, I know what you're getting at. Your client's young and she's a bride. I also know Jack Miller's dead.
What I was getting at was a thing called justice. But in your frame of mind, you wouldn't understand. Look, Nelson, I don't know whether you realize it or not, but we're on the same side. I just hope it gets through to you before it's too late. Faced with such damaging testimony from the arresting officer, Janet Fraser's only chance was that some evidence could be produced to confirm her denial that she had been drinking. I didn't find it at the scene of the accident, but I was able to persuade Officer Nelson before he went on duty to meet me at the garage where Mrs. Fraser's car had been impounded.
This is it. Now, just like the police said, that warning light was burning all right. I seen it when I picked up the wreck.
And it's your contention that Janet Fraser should have seen the barricade and the patrolman?
I don't think she could see nothing. I think she was blind, stinko, blotto.
What makes you so sure?
Well, when I come up to haul this heap away, the smell was so strong I nearly got a toot on. Yeah, just passing by.
Well, there was supposed to have been a bottle of brandy in the car that was broken in the wreck.
There was. It's all on the report.
And is it your theory they were drinking from this bottle?
Could be.
This bottle has never been opened. The seal hasn't been broken.
So what? That could have been a spare.
You know, I've been picking these messes up off the highways for, 15 years now. And every time I run into one of them boozers, the first thing he tells the cops is he's just taking the stuff somewheres. Yeah. Nobody ever drinks it. No, he just carries it to somebody else.
That's right. They could have killed 3 bottles before the accident and thrown the empties out the window. Or stopped at any bar along the highway.
Hey, then I got a flash for you. Here. I found these on the floor when I picked the car up. That joint's just 3 miles from where they plowed that there cop under.
I have a day off on the 22nd. If I can be of any more help.
I wanted to question Janet Fraser about the Blue Star Bar, but I was informed she was under sedation. Then I received a visitor and a big surprise. Hello, Tilly.
I just came from the jail. Janet's sick.
She'll be all right.
She'll never be all right until she's cleared of this. She's that kind of a girl.
We're doing the best we can.
Well, you can stop trying. The case is over. I killed that cop.
What are you talking about?
I thought Janet could get away with it. You know, young bride and all that. But it looks like I was wrong.
I was driving the car. Pretty drunk, too. After it happened, Janet slid me over and got behind the wheel herself.
Then you two had been drinking.
I'd been drinking, all during the wedding party.
But Janet said there had been no drinking at her grandmother's.
Maggie's getting old. I was hitting the bottle, and she and Janet didn't know about it.
Then you stopped at the Blue Star Bar.
Yeah. I had a few more there. Like they say, the best drinks in the state.
Do you realize that you can receive up to 10 years in the penitentiary for such a crime?
I wasn't expecting a medal. Well, aren't you going to call the cops and have them take me in so Janet can be released?
If the police want you, they'll be after you soon enough. Janet had asked me not to tell her grandmother what had happened. But after Tony's confession, there was no alternative.
But, Mr. Matthews, Janet is the kindest-hearted person that ever lived. It must have been an accident.
There's no doubt about that. It's just that she had the accident while she was intoxicated.
It's a lie. I'd skin them both alive, and they know it.
According to Tony, it's not a lie. He's trying to take the blame, claims that he was drinking during the wedding party.
Tony drinking, and I not know it? Huh. Come with me a moment. Look at all that, Mr. Matthews. Just look at all that. The grapes are a legend in our family. My husband's father brought the first little vines into this valley from Europe. There isn't a grape grown that I don't know the smell of, whether it's fresh or fermented. Not only can I tell when a man has been drinking, but what as well.
You know, I believe you could. Here's a copy of the accident report. I'm sure you'd like to look it over.
You know, when a person has lived 75 years, they learn a lot about people. I think I know how this patrolman must feel. I'd like to talk to him.
I wish you would. I'll try and arrange it.
Thank you.
Well, goodbye, Mrs. DiMaggiore.
Just call me Maggie.
Maggie DiMaggiore was obviously a woman of honesty and integrity, and I was sure she wasn't lying. But there was still the Blue Star Bar.
Yeah, I remember those kids. Two real characters.
What makes you say that?
Well, what's more of a character than a newlywed?
Did they buy any drinks here?
That's what nearly knocked me over. They walked in here with this jug, like as if my liquor wasn't good enough.
Could you estimate how much they had to drink?
Oh, I'd say about a couple of cartons.
2 cartons?
Yeah, they ordered milk. Screwy-like. Then they poured the milk into the mugs and sat over there toasting the bottle. Never even opened it. Like I'm telling you, never met such screwy characters.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boulter. And here's a subpoena for the trial.
A subpoena? You mean I've got to go to trial? Well, that's what I get for opening my big fat mouth.
Well, so it shouldn't be a total loss. I'll have something.
Oh, fine. What'll it be?
Glass of milk.
Milk? And it's on the house.
Now it was time to talk to Don Nelson again, and hope he would listen to reason.
Now, look, Matthews, I was there and I know what I saw. And you know the courts have a habit of believing the arresting officer.
You call yourself a police officer? You don't want justice. You're looking for a patsy.
Now, wait a minute.
Now, you wait a minute. I know your buddy was a nice guy, and it's a rotten thing that he was killed. But does that give you the right to play judge and jury and decide who's responsible?
I'm going by the book of rules, and you know it.
Then play it right down the line.
Meaning what?
Go back to the scene of the accident and go over everything again with me.
Forget it.
Well, then at least talk to all the witnesses.
What do you mean, all the witnesses? I was the only witness.
There was a witness as to whether or not those 2 kids had been drinking.
What do you mean?
The only place they could have had a drink before the accident was at the girl's grandmother's.
You expect me to believe that girl's grandmother?
She's still a witness to the fact. Well, you're going to follow the book of rules, Nelson? Or are you afraid you might learn the truth?
Get in the car. I'll try it your way.
I have read Officer Nelson's report. I'm afraid that just saying that Tony and Janet were innocent won't be very convincing. I expect you hear a lot of such talk from relatives.
All the time.
I don't suppose it would matter to you if I pointed out that nowhere in here is there any real proof that Tony and Janet had been drinking.
There was a lighted barricade across that road, ma'am. Anyone sober would have seen it.
That's a mighty definite statement.
I'm sorry for you, ma'am, but a man has been killed.
And he was a very good friend of yours. I think I understand.
All you understand, ma'am, is that you've got a granddaughter who's in trouble. Maybe a few years ago, when I first entered the force, I would have been more inclined to listen to you.
What difference do the years make?
They mean I've seen it all, and I mean all of it. Hot rodders racing themselves to an early grave. Reckless drivers trying to see how many they can kill. And the nicest people in the world who get tanked up and try to make a deadly weapon out of their automobile. But no matter how guilty they are, they always have friends and relatives try to set them free so they can do the same thing over again. Ready?
Mr. Nelson, what is going to happen to you on that day after you've ruined a person's life, that you find out you've been wrong?
I'm afraid I'm not thinking that far ahead, ma'am. All I know is that Jack Miller was my best friend and he died in my arms. Maybe you can't understand how I feel.
I think I do understand. Will you two gentlemen come inside a moment? This is a picture of my husband, taken 43 years ago, the day before he was killed. Maybe murdered, I'm not sure. I met John nearly 50 years ago. I was engaged then to another man, Will Gage. But the moment I met John, I knew that he was the one. It was a good life, until the day Will Gage talked him into that hunting trip. It was right here on this divan where they brought John a few hours later. He died here, with his head in my arms. A hunting accident, Will Gage called it. He cried a lot and said that although he'd never forgotten how John took me away from him, it had been an accident. People around here like John, and all I had to do was to say that I thought Will was lying, and they'd have strung him up. But I didn't do it, Mr. Nelson. I could have been wrong, just as you could be wrong now. Thank you, Mr. Matthews, for all you've tried to do for Janet. And thank you, Mr. Nelson, for coming to listen to an old woman.
Well, maybe I could be wrong. Goodbye, Mrs. DeMcGorry.
Just call me Maggie.
I had the feeling that Maggie had softened Nelson up, but I wasn't sure. As a last resort, I obtained a court order to take the prisoner to the location of the accident in an effort to arrive at the truth.
I'm sorry, Bart, it's no use. You can see for yourself. Anyone sober would have seen that light.
But I tell you, I know there was no light when I came around that curve.
And I'm telling you, I was standing right here where I am now watching the flames when I heard the car coming.
Now, this is getting us nowhere. Now, let's go over the whole thing once more.
Okay. We were cruising the area. We noticed the wind had blown the lamp out, so we stopped to light it.
Now, like this.
Now, around here a little further.
Are you sure it was lit before the accident?
I'm positive.
All right, and exactly what happened after that?
We heard the car coming.
Mrs. Fraser, would you mind showing me once more just where you were when you first saw the officer?
Yes, sir. When we came around the curve, they just appeared out of nowhere.
You can see the skid marks.
All right, and what happened after that?
I jumped. Jack didn't have a chance.
Nelson, would you mind getting into your car and driving up to this point in the manner in which you think Mrs. Fraser drove?
Not at all. If you think it'll prove anything.
Well, did it prove anything?
Proves Mrs. Fraser was right. She couldn't see that light. Nobody could. Miller was blocking it from her view.
You know, being wrong is nothing to be ashamed of. Just as long as you're man enough to admit it.
I'd kind of like to be the first one to tell her, Bart.
Looks like she's already guessed.
No, I mean Mrs. DeMagori. Just call me Maggie. I'd like to be the one she hears it from.
You know, my guess is you're the one she'd want to hear it from. Patrolman Nelson filed an amended accident report. The death of Patrolman Jack Miller was declared accidental and Janet Fraser was released. As for Patrolman Don Nelson, he was given a citation of merit for his diligence to duty in seeing that justice was done. The case you have just seen was brought to a fair and just conclusion through the efforts of a public defender. Tonight, Philip Morris salutes Public Defender Lester J. Galvin, Kane County, Aurora, Illinois, and his staff for outstanding achievement in the cause of justice. public defender is an attorney employed by the community and responsible for giving legal aid without cost to any person who seeks it and is financially unable to employ private counsel. It is his duty to defend those accused of crime until the issue is decided in a court of law. The first public defender's office in the United States was opened in January 1913. Over the years, other offices were opened. And today, that handful has grown to a network of lawyers cooperating to protect the rights of our clients. The trained investigator. It is from him that the public defender receives the majority of the information used in the defense of his clients. One such man is Edward McGrath, investigator, public defender's office, Los Angeles, who worked night and day to get me the facts on case 37423.
People versus Wade Layton Foster. Do you have an attorney?
No, sir.
Do you have the money to employ an attorney?
No, Your Honor, I don't.
Public defender appointed.
That afternoon, I had my first interview with my client in the lawyer's room on the 10th floor of the Hall of Justice. His charge, armed robbery. His plea, not guilty.
And so you see, Mr. Matthews, I wasn't even in California at the time they say the holdup took place.
And that was on May 29th at about 11 a.m.
I was in Las Vegas, have been since last Christmas.
Did you have a job?
Oh, yes, sir. I worked for Mr. Bascom. He owns the Desert Flower Land Development Company. I was a salesman, a good one.
And why were you let out?
Well, you can't sell much land when it's 120 in the shade.
No, I guess not.
So I sold my car and headed for L.A.
What kind of a car?
Oh, didn't get much for it. It was a 46 Ford Coupe.
Color?
Blue.
And when did you get to Los Angeles?
Well, so this is Tuesday, isn't it?
Yes.
It was 4 weeks ago today, July the 3rd.
Can you prove that? I mean, with the ticket stub from the bus or train, you know.
Oh, no, I hitched rides. Must have had about 10 of them.
And you can't remember any of the people who picked you up?
No, sir.
Now, it says here that you were picked up on a vagrancy charge in the Pershing Square area on July 10th. Your property file shows that you only had $1.12 at the time.
Well, you know how it is, Mr. Matthews. A fellow who lives in Vegas for a while thinks he's pretty good with the dice. Some boys on the east side proved me wrong.
I see. How did the police tie you in with the robbery?
Well, I guess I was in Lincoln Heights jail about 3 days. They found out I was a two-time loser. Oh, but that was a long time ago, sir. So every day they pushed me in the show up, figuring somebody'd pin something on me.
There's the one, that one, the second one from the right.
Foster, step out.
He's the one who stole the money. He's the one who did it. I never forget a face.
And she said, there's the one who did it. But, Mr. Matthews, I didn't even know what I was being accused of until the preliminary hearing.
At which time you pleaded not guilty?
Yes, sir.
Now, do you know anyone in Las Vegas whom we could contact who could testify that you were there on May 29th?
Well, sure. The guy I worked for, the lady who runs the motel I lived at, and my girlfriend. She'd remember.
Fine. Could I have their names and addresses?
You believe me, Mr. Matthews. You believe I'm innocent.
If I didn't, Wade, I'd advise you to change your plea to guilty. Oh, and will you make a reservation on the 9:30 flight tonight for Las Vegas? Come in? No, Ed McGrath is, Gene. I'll have him pick up the tickets from you. Yes, right. Mrs. Blair, I'm sorry to bring you all the way downtown, but since you're the one who identified Mr. Foster...
Well, I'm getting quite used to it.
You know Mr. McGrath, my investigator.
Oh, a private eye. How nice.
Mrs. Blair, I've been going over the crime report, and your description of the suspect and the man now being held for the crime does not coincide.
But that's not possible.
Would you mind telling us once again, Mrs. Blair, what really happened?
Well, it was the 29th of May, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right.
And we were having our annual charity golf tournament. I'm co-chairman, you know. And there were thousands of people.
Well, it was about 11 o'clock because the last foursome had just teed off, and we were left quite deserted at the gate. Mr. Mooney, the treasurer of the club, was helping me put the money away when this man walked up. That'll be $2, please. You'll have to hurry if you're going to get your money's worth. I'll never forget it. There was a gun pointing right at me. I couldn't take my eyes off it.
Now, that being the case, how were you able to identify my client and the police show up?
Mr. Matthews, you're twisting my words.
No, Mrs. Blair. I just want to know why you say here that the suspect was blonde, and yet you identified my client who was dark-haired.
Well, he was wearing a hat.
That's not in your report, Mrs. Blair.
Doesn't?
No, it's not.
Well, he was young, and I thought he was wearing a hat. Is that better?
Why didn't you call for help?
Oh, we did. But by that time, he was in his car and away.
Do you know the make of the car?
Oh, these new models, they all look alike to me.
Do you remember the color?
Oh, that I remember. It was red.
Did you get the number of the plates?
Plates?
The license number.
My dear man, without my glasses, I could barely see the car.
Mrs. Blair, your estimated loss was $2,700 in small bills and silver. Were there any checks?
No, it was all in cash.
You've been a big help, Mrs. Blair. Thank you for coming down. Well, Ed, I think we're making headway.
What's the next step?
Here's a list of names and addresses in Las Vegas. I want you to check on Foster's alibi.
Las Vegas in August? It's hot, Bart.
Cools off in the evening. You're on the 9:30 plane tonight.
Excuse me, can I see you a minute?
Yeah.
You Margot Lane?
You a cop or do I owe you money?
Do you know a Wade Foster?
Yeah, he used to come in here.
When'd you see him last?
Listen, mister, why all the questions?
Well, here's one reason.
What's he done?
We hope nothing. Maybe you can help us prove it.
That table, we can talk over there. I'm sorry, Mr. McGrath. You get a lot of questions from a lot of characters in a place like this.
Sure, I know how that is. You work here, huh?
Sort of. I'm a shill. Play on the house money when things get slow. How's Wade?
Oh, here's his latest picture. You like Wade Foster, don't you?
I like him better without a number. What's he up for?
Armed robbery in L.A.
Oh, no. When?
Last May, May 29th.
May 29th. May 29th in Los Angeles?
Mm-hmm.
Why, he couldn't have. He was with me here.
Sure about that? That was over 2 months ago.
Well, I remember I had the day off because of a holiday weekend coming up. Wade said if he closed the deal, we'd do the town that night.
A deal?
Yeah, he had a date with some rich guy at the Peacock Inn to sell him some land. That was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
What time did you meet him?
About 8.
How about the deal?
Oh, he closed it. We spent the commission that night. $50. We did the town.
Well, what about the night before, May 28th?
No, he was in here with another prospect. That guy lost his shirt before he could sell him enough land to stand on.
Miss Lane, would you be willing to testify to what you just told me in court?
Sure. All I want is my husband back.
Her husband?
Well, you might as well know everything. We were married last March in Boulder City.
Hey, go on.
Well, I had to keep it a secret. They don't hire married gals for my kind of work, and we needed the steady money.
Well, sure, I understand how that is.
Look, I've got to go. Business is getting slow.
All right. Anything you want me to tell Wade?
Would you?
Sure.
Well, tell him if he gets home for Christmas to bring a present for the baby.
Ed McGrath was hot but happy when he called the next morning to report on his interview with Margot Lane. He was almost certain she could provide us with the airtight alibi we needed for our client. The picture became even better when Ed learned at Harry's garage that my client's car had been laid up for repairs from May 27 until June 2nd, and that he never had seen Wade Foster driving a red car. His next stop was to see Horace Bascom, Foster's former employer.
Well, Mr. McGrath, glad you dropped in. But I don't want you to say yes or no till you take plenty of time to think it over. I will not high-pressure a man.
I didn't come out to buy a lot in your development, Mr. Baskin.
I tell you that I would have a guilty conscience if I let you pass up that golden opportunity. Why, you can double your money in a year.
I don't want to double my money.
You don't? Why?
I'm out here, Mr. Bascom, to try and help Wade Foster. Was he working for you here in Las Vegas last May 28th and 29th?
May 28th. Yes, that it was. But just to be sure, I'll look in the appointment book.
Oh, keep an appointment book, huh?
Oh, yes. It's a necessary function in the real estate business. May 28th, eh? There, here we are. Yep, you had appointment at 10, 1:30, and 3. Yeah, he didn't make a sale.
What about the next day?
May 29th. Yep, had an appointment at 10. No, that is canceled. Fool lost his money in a crap game. Then he met Mr. March at 5 and sold lot 412 for $2,000.
What was his commission?
2.5%.
$50, huh?
Yeah, just $50.
Okay, Mr. Bascom. Thanks for your trouble.
No trouble at all.
May have to ask you to give a deposition.
Be glad to. Always glad to help a client.
Oh, one more thing.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a company car?
Company car?
Well, Foster's car was laid up at the time. Now, whose car was he driving when he brought his client out here?
Well, I don't know where he got it, but it certainly made a good impression.
You remember what it looked like?
Well, of course I do. It was a brand new Plymouth sedan.
Must be hundreds of those cars around. Why do you remember that one?
Because it was my favorite color. Red. Yes, sir. Fire engine red.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Bascom.
Well, now, look here. 412's gone, but that 411 lot next to it is a Jim Dandy. If you don't get back in an hour, it'll be gone.
That doesn't prove anything. Well, good, Ed. You keep right at it. Where are you calling from? I can hardly hear you.
I'm at Maple's Motel, where Foster used to live. Look, Bart, I'll call you back later, okay? All right, goodbye. Listen, Roy, will you turn that thing off just a minute?
I can hear you all right. When you got 10 rooms to clean and nobody to help with the work, you ain't got time to stop and talk.
Well, how long did Foster live here?
Oh, about 6, 7 months. Nice boy. Always paid his rent on time. Mind moving your feet?
Did he ever stay out all night?
No, sir. On that, you can be sure.
How's that?
Well, lots of people staying here getting divorces. Lots of them use me as a witness. They've been here 6 weeks. You ain't never been divorced?
No, ma'am.
Well, it takes that long, and you can't be away for more than 24 hours at a time. I got a front room and a bad case of insomnia. I know when you're in, and I know when you ain't.
Well, do you own a red Plymouth sedan?
Don't have a car. When would I have time to drive one?
Did Mr. Foster own one?
No. Owned an old Ford. Sold it the day he left here. Well, that does this room. Anything else you want to know?
Yes. Are you positive Mr. Foster was here the night of May 28th?
Look, mister, like I told you before, it's my business to remember when they ain't here.
We have to call you as a witness in this case.
I get $25 a day on expenses.
Mrs. Leroy, this is not a divorce trial.
Well, he's been hitched to a crime, ain't he?
Yep.
And you're trying to separate him from it, ain't you?
That's right.
That's divorce in my book. $25 a day on expenses. Good day.
Good.
Yeah, standing on the cord.
Sorry. Thanks a lot, Mrs. Leroy.
All right. Hey, that 25 has got to be in cash.
Yes, sir. May I be of service?
Yeah, I want to rent a car.
Well, here's our stable.
They're all brand new, in perfect condition.
How about this one, the sedan?
The sedan, in this weather? A convertible would be the kind of car that...
I don't like convertibles. What color is the sedan?
Well, you won't like that either. It's red.
Red? You recognize this man?
No. No, I don't think so. Should I?
How long have you worked here?
Only since June the 15th. You keep a record of all the cars you rent? Certainly, that's the law.
I'd like the names of everyone who rented this car last May.
There you are, Lieutenant. You are a policeman, aren't you?
What's the mileage from here to L.A.?
Exactly 289 miles. Public Defender's office, huh?
Mm-hmm. I'm driving about 5.5 hours, huh?
Well, we recommend 6.5.
May 28th. Went out at 5 p.m. Returned May 31st, 9 a.m. Total mileage, 722, signed W. Foster. I'd like to rent this car for a few hours.
Yes, sir. I'll make out the papers.
Mind if I keep this long enough to have a photostat made?
Well, what's the matter? Did the fellow get in trouble of some kind? States here that he paid for it.
He paid the first installment.
I beg your pardon?
Unless I'm wrong, you'll be paying for it for a long time to come.
And that's all the cars up until midnight, May the 28th. Now, this page is for May 29th, from 12:01 a.m. on. What was that license number again?
Nevada plate 69544.
Nevada. Oh, yes, here it is. Well, that car was logged going through here at 7:44 a.m., May the 29th.
Would you give me an affidavit to that effect, Inspector?
I'll be glad to, Mr. McGrath.
Do you have any record of the car leaving California?
No, sir. Only the cars that come into the state. Oh, hi, Charlie. Hot enough for you?
Not too bad. Say, do you belong to that red Plymouth parked outside?
Yeah, why? Anything wrong, officer?
You don't look like the same fella. But I'll bet it's the same car. I should know it. I chased it for nearly 20 miles.
Oh?
Caught up with it just outside Barstow. He was doing nearly 90.
When was this?
Oh, a couple of months ago. Yeah, it was around the end of May. Gave him a ticket, but he never showed up in court.
Was he headed east or west?
Toward Vegas. I guess he was in a hurry to get there and lose his money.
Oh, I'm afraid he was in a hurry to get there and save it. I'll wait for that affidavit, Inspector. Oh, from the Public Defender's office. Oh, it looks pretty bad now. I figure he left Vegas about 5 in the morning. That'd put him into the Irmo inspection station at 7:44.
Pretty fast going.
Well, it's all desert country. There's not much traffic. Anyway, you could easily get from there into Los Angeles by 11 o'clock in the morning.
Go on.
Well, if he left here a little after 11, that'd give him almost 6 hours to get back to Vegas to keep his 5 o'clock appointment.
You're cutting it pretty thin.
How about that speeding ticket he got here?
Oh, we don't know it was Foster. We're not even sure it was his car.
Suppose it has his name on it. Officer said he signed it.
He could have used a phony name.
I'd like to bet he didn't.
Who are you working for, Ed? Me or the district attorney?
Now, wait a minute, Bart. You told me to get the facts, and I did. I don't like them any better than you do.
Yeah, I know, Ed. Better to find them out now than learn them from the prosecution in court.
Yeah. If he did get the ticket, I wonder what he did with it.
What do you do with the ticket when you get one?
Put it in my wallet.
Most people do. Let's see if Foster did. Sure carries a lot of business cards.
Mm-hmm. Helps in the real estate business.
His wife?
Yeah. Pretty, huh?
Yeah. What time did you figure you'd have to get this in order to be in Las Vegas at 5 p.m.?
Between 2:15 and 2:30.
2:25, May 29th. Look at the signature.
W.L. Foster. I don't think the chief was too happy about letting us in after hours.
I told him I had a good reason. I don't ask too many favors.
Oh, say, am I glad to see you. Oh, what's up? Something big must have happened to bring you down here this time of night.
You know Mr. McGrath.
Well, sure, he's working on my case. How's it going?
Not so good, Wade.
Oh, what do you mean? Didn't you go to Vegas like you said?
Just got back.
Well, that's swell. What'd you find out?
Plenty.
Yeah, I know, but what?
I found out you were a good planner.
Huh?
And a better liar.
Is this a rib or something?
It's no joke, Wade.
Well, didn't you talk to Margot?
I saw her.
And Mr. Bascom?
He was a big help.
And all those other people I told you to see, Harry and Mrs. Leroy. And
You forgot about the Desert Auto Rental Company.
I don't know anybody there.
Should. Paid him a lot of money. $82.98. This is your signature, isn't it?
What's it for?
A red Plymouth sedan.
We have other copies.
What about this speeding ticket you got outside Barstow the afternoon of the robbery?
Whose side are you on, anyhow?
Yours. What did you do with the money?
You'll never find it.
What about the gun you used?
Wouldn't you like to know?
Want me to tell you how you did it?
I don't want to hear nothing from you. Now, let's get one thing straight. Are you working for me?
I'm your attorney, yes.
Well, then start acting like one and help me beat this rap.
You aren't going to beat it, Wade.
Huh?
Remember this, you're a two-time loser. If you're found guilty, you're liable to get 10 years to life.
Well, I'm not going to be found guilty.
Then take my advice.
Yeah?
Change your plea to guilty and throw yourself on the mercy of the court.
What?
You might get off with 5 to 10.
Tell me something, Mr. Matthews. All this information that you and your buddy here found out, who does it belong to?
The public defender's office.
The DA doesn't have it?
I don't know what information the district attorney has.
But you could give it to him.
No. No, what we know remains with us. It cannot be subpoenaed.
Well, then I got news for you, Mr. Public Defender. As of 1 minute ago, you're fired. I don't need a lawyer. I can defend myself. And in case you didn't know it, I'm married to Margot, and she'll testify I wasn't out of her sight the 29th of May. And the state can't make her testify against me. Now, what do you say to that, Mr. Matthews?
That's your privilege, Wade. The public defender can never be a party to perjury.
With my record, what do I care about perjury? Hey, copper, unlock the Golden Gate and let me back with the nice people.
All that time and work, and he had to turn out like that.
You did your best, didn't you?
Yeah, sure, but I feel like such a sucker. I believed him.
Yeah, so did I. But what would have happened if we didn't do our best and an innocent man was found guilty?
Yeah. Sure, I know. You're right.
Well, at least there's one thing I can be thankful for.
What's that?
I won't have to represent him again.
I wouldn't be too sure of that.
I'm planning to retire in 15 years, remember?
So?
Well, he's going to be out of circulation for at least 20. His own behalf went to trial 4 weeks later. He was found guilty of armed robbery and was sentenced to 20 years to life in the state prison. You see, the district attorney's office also has trained investigators. Now, the case you have just seen was brought to a fair and just conclusion through the efforts of a public defender. Public Defender George Gilman, New London County, New London, Connecticut, and his staff for outstanding achievement in the cause of justice.
was on the post, see, and it was after retreat. Had shower, and I was just lying there on my bunk thinking. You know, killing time, lying there and thinking, and...
You're laughing, boy. Heard any good jokes lately?
Yeah, it hurt, boy.
Hey, you should have been with me. I had a great time.
I wish I could. What'd you do?
Same old thing. Just fooling around.
Bet you forgot.
Forgot what?
Called my wife. Did you call her?
Didn't have to. I seen her.
Yeah, where?
Oh, picture show. She was with that, what's his name, with the curly hair and, yeah, charm boy.
Albie Schaff?
Yeah, the pretty one. Oh, what are you stewing about? Dames are all the same. I never let one put a rope around my neck. Love 'em and leave me, you never get no ulcers that way.
Ah, shut up.
Oh, come on, knock it off. I probably shouldn't have told you. But I just don't want to see you made a sucker out of. What do you think you're going?
Home.
Over the hill?
No, don't worry. I'll get a 3-day pass, but I'm going to find out what this is all about.
Danny! Oh, darling. What's the matter, darling?
Got a headache.
Let me get you something.
Ruth? Want to talk to you about something.
What's the matter, darling?
You don't know, I suppose?
Something happened at camp?
Yeah, something happened at camp. Something Sergeant Willis said. Said he saw you at the picture show last night.
Did he? I didn't see him.
No, how could you? You were so busy with Albie Schaff.
So that's what you're upset about.
Yeah. Real funny, isn't it?
Oh, darling, listen to me.
I don't want to listen.
But you're going to listen. I went to the picture show by myself last night. The way I've always gone since you were drafted. By myself or with my mother and the girls. When the picture was over, I got up to leave and I ran into Albie. He was by himself, too. And we walked through the lobby together and then stood in front of the picture show for a minute talking. He wanted me to go to a dance with him, and I told him no. And then he insisted on taking me home, so I let him.
And?
He took me home, that's all.
How long did you sit in the car with him?
I didn't sit in the car with him. Not for a minute, not for 5 seconds. What's the matter with you? Don't you believe me? Don't you trust me? Answer me, Daniel. Don't you trust me?
I don't know. I don't know.
You don't know. That means you don't trust me. What kind of a marriage can we have if you don't trust me?
No, who said I don't trust
you? You did. Look, you've been away from me a long time, too. How do I know I can trust you?
What do you think I do? Go chasing around with every dame on the post?
You've been accusing me of chasing around.
Maybe you were.
All right, if you want it that way, maybe I was. Maybe I'm no good. Maybe you shouldn't have married me. Maybe you should have married somebody else, somebody you can trust.
Will you stop it?
No, I won't. If you're sorry you married me, why didn't you say so and we'll get a divorce?
Oh.
Don't turn away from me. Listen to me. I want this settled right now.
All right, settle it right now. You want a divorce? Okay, get a divorce. Okay. See if I care. I was wrong, of course. I wanted to say I was sorry, but I don't know. I couldn't.
What did you do after you left the house?
Well, I walked down the block to this Mr. Erickson's house. His car was parked outside, so I went in asking if I could borrow it, you know, take a ride, kind of clear my head.
And he said yes?
Yeah, nice old guy. He gave me the keys, and then...
Before you go into that, did you have anything to drink? Anything alcoholic, I mean.
Well, a bottle of beer with a sandwich or so.
When was that?
Well, it was right after Mr. Erickson loaned me the car. I went around the corner to a bar and grill, Eddie's place.
And then you got back in the car?
Yeah. I just drove around, and then all of a sudden I heard a bang like I hit something. I jammed on the brakes and got out, and it was an old lady. I hit an old lady, but I didn't see her, Mr. Harris. I swear I didn't see her.
Did you have your eyes on the road?
Sure, but headlights from a car coming toward me blinded me. I couldn't see anything, not a thing.
What did you do after you found you hit the woman?
Well, at first I thought I'd run away, and I got back in the car, and I just sat there. I began to realize what I'd done. Next thing I knew, the cops were there, an ambulance. They said the old lady was dead. That's when the cop asked me to get out and walk a straight line. He said I was drunk.
But you said you only had one bottle of beer.
That's why I had one bottle of beer. I didn't even feel it.
But the police said you were drunk.
Because I didn't do so good walking a straight line. That's because I just hit this...
A public defender is an attorney employed by the community and responsible for giving legal aid without cost to any person who seeks it and is financially unable to employ private counsel. It is his duty to defend those accused of crime until the issue is decided in a court of law. The first public defender's office in the United States was opened in January 1913. Over the years, other offices were opened. And today, that handful has grown to a network of lawyers cooperating to protect the rights of our clients. Now, the case I'm going to tell you about concerns a young man whose personal problems led him into more serious trouble with the law.
I'm your lawyer, Dan. Good to see you. Gene Harris from the Public Defender's Office. You stationed somewhere around here?
Yeah, Fort McCracken, about 3 hours by bus.
Cigarette?
Oh, thanks.
Tell me all about this accident, Dan. Right from the beginning.
I was,
No, keep the pack.
Oh, thanks. I was driving down Church Street, see, not fast, and...
Whose car were you driving, Dan?
Belonged to a neighbor of mine, Mr. Erickson. He loaned it to me.
Mm-hmm. Just why did you borrow this car? What led up to it?
Well, I guess you could say it started this way.
Well, then, the man that was driving the station wagon should have seen the accident, wouldn't you say?
I guess. But he just kept going. And I don't have the slightest idea who he was.
About these headlights that the boy claims blinded him.
Malarkey. There wasn't one car headed towards him, not a one.
You said you were turned away from the street.
Like that, I turned around. Looked up and down the street real fast to see what happened. There was your man coming to a stop, and a station wagon going away. And there another car going in the opposite direction. If there'd have been one, I would have seen it all right.
Well, thanks for your time, Mr. Buford.
Oh. It's all right. You know, your man was pretty liquored up. Did I do about that, too?
Well, that's for the jury to decide. Thanks again.
Ruth, you've just got to make yourself do something. I'm not going to allow my daughter to mope away the rest of her life just to... I'll see who it is.
Mrs. Booker?
I'm Mrs. Booker's mother.
Oh, I'm Dan's attorney, Mr. Harris.
How do you do, Mr. Harris? I'm Mrs. Booker.
How do
Won't you please come in? Please sit down.
Thank you.
How are his chances, Mr. Harris? I'm terribly worried. This whole thing is my fault. I never should have allowed that quarrel to start in the first place.
Nonsense, my dear. When a man has a suspicious mind, there's nothing a woman can do to change it. You know that perfectly well.
Please, Mother. I was upset about Danny even before the accident, Mr. Harris. Worrying about him and wondering if he'd ever be all right again after what the Army doctors said.
Army doctors?
Didn't he tell you?
No.
He doesn't like to talk about it. Danny was in the medical corps in Korea, and they were trying to take one of those hills, and he kept running in under heavy artillery fire to bring out the wounded. A mortar shell went off near him and nearly tore him apart. They gave him the Silver Star, but A medal can't wipe out the terror that stays in your mind.
No, I suppose not.
That's why you've got to help him, Mr. Harris. He wasn't drunk. He was sick.
Unfortunately, Dan did have 2 drinks of whiskey before the accident, Mrs. Booker.
Danny?
A waitress in a bar around the corner is sure of it. And Mr. Erickson is very positive about Danny driving the car without permission.
But he didn't see the old woman. With the headlights in his eyes, he couldn't see anything.
I checked with the gasoline station attendant. There weren't any...
Oh, lady, I felt so bad inside. But I swear that's why.
All right. Now listen to me, Dan. This is important. Is this the truth you've been telling me? About borrowing the car, having 1 bottle of beer, and being blinded by headlights? Is all of that the truth?
So help me. I wouldn't lie to you, Mr. Harris, not my own lawyer.
Sorry, mister. Can't say I remember this one.
You're sure now? It's very important.
I know, but you wouldn't want me to say that I remember him and remember what I served him if I don't, would you? You don't look like that kind of a lawyer.
Well, thanks. For the compliment, anyway.
Hey, Miss America. Just a minute, mister.
You're a real howl, Benny. What do you want now? Tell me another corny joke?
No, the man wants some information. Take a look at the picture.
Do you recall serving this fellow, miss? He was probably very depressed, unhappy, in a mood. Remember him? The boy's in trouble, miss. I'm trying to help him.
Well, why didn't you say so in the first place? Yeah, I waited on this one. Sure.
What did you serve him? Do you remember?
Well, I remember. Some kind of a sandwich and 2 whiskeys.
2 whiskeys? No beer?
No beer, 2 whiskeys. Scotch. And he took 'em neat.
You're sure of that now?
Truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me, Hannah. Is that good or bad for the kid?
Well, it's not good. Thanks, both of you.
It's absolutely untrue, Mr. Harris. I hardly know Dan Booker. And I wouldn't lend him my car if he was my own son. Nobody drives my car but me. He stole it, that's what he did, right from where it was in front of my house.
I see. Then you didn't give him the keys to the car.
Well, what's the matter with your ears, man? I just told you.
Well, I was just wondering how he got the car started.
The keys were right there in the ignition. That's how he got her started.
Leaving keys in the car isn't very smart, Mr. Erickson.
If you people saw to it that car thieves didn't roam the streets...
I'm an attorney, sir, not a policeman.
Well, the police, then. If they don't stop those car thieves, at least I'll do my share to teach them a lesson.
Well, the boy's in pretty bad trouble as it is, sir.
Sure, because he stole an automobile, and if I go soft, he'll do it again.
All right. Thank you very much for coming in, Mr. Erickson. See you at the trial, I suppose.
You're darn right you will.
Then you didn't actually see the car hit the old lady?
All I know is what I told you, Mr. Harris. I filled up the station wagon, and after the man drove out, I turned around and headed for the office. Then I heard this bang and a scream.